Radio.
16 minutes past 1 o'clock. Fiona Bateson, lovely to see you back here for 2015.
And you?
How's your hearing?
Very good, thank you. How's yours?
Mine's fine, I think. I was reading an article the other day, actually, about radio presenters and how they lose their hearing. And there are some actually making claims against their former employers, saying they didn't protect their hearing, which is a tricky one, really, because if you're going to wear headphones day in, day out, and you're going to have, I mean, I don't have mine too loud, as you know, because you've told me off before, but if you're going to do a job where you have headphones in your ear playing loud music, part of you must know that you're risking damaging your ear.
Yeah, but it doesn't need to be loud. And these days, health and safety regulations state that employers need to provide you with the equipment and ensure you're wearing it and using it appropriately, so they know what they're doing.
This particular article talking about radio presenters said that even where there were big messages saying working on this desk can damage your hearing, radio presenters are a difficult breed and they still like to find ways of circumnavigating that and turning it up loud and hitting this so-called sweet spot. So, no, my hearing, I think, is fine. You are a clinical audiologist. The fact that we're about to talk about tinnitus, that's the second time I've got that wrong, Tinnitus Awareness Week, means it's been a year that you've been coming in, because you came in last year to do just that.
Just the same thing, yes. So it's next week from the 2nd to the 8th of February, and basically just to promote the public awareness of tinnitus, the struggle, identifying it, getting help, that sort of thing. That things can be done.
Well, we're going to talk about tinnitus at length in a moment. If you've got any questions for Fiona about your own hearing, in particular tinnitus, but anything related to the quality of your hearing, what goes on in your ears, whether that's wax or blockages or whatever they may be, the phone number is 08459 455 555. You can also text your question to 81333, starting your text with 3CR. Fiona is very reassuring. She goes straight to the point very quickly, works out what it is, and then also often with things that I think won't have a solution. There are many solutions, and from what I've learnt in the times you've been in, Fiona, nothing is hopeless. Short of actually completely losing your hearing, nothing is hopeless.
And that's not even hopeless either. So
there we go. Put me in my place. Let's talk about tinnitus first off then. First of all, what is tinnitus itself?
Tinnitus is any sounds or ringing, buzzing, whistling, any sort of sensation of sound that appears in the ears or in the head which has no external source. So we know it's not coming from outside, we know it's not a real sound, but it's actually a sound that the patients can hear that can be irritating. Sometimes it's not irritating. Patients can have tinnitus for 20 years and it not be a problem. But it's when it becomes a problem, it's problematic, it's intrusive and causing effects on their social life, their work life, sleeping, that sort of thing. That's when it needs something doing about it.
You've kind of phrased my next question to you, which is it real? As in, are tinnitus sufferers hearing things, or are they hearing things? Now, I know there's a nuance between my question there.
Yep, absolutely. What is actually happening is that the perception of sound, which occurs in the auditory cortex in the brain itself, is being stimulated by electrical energy that's whizzing across the brain at thousands of signals per second. And the auditory cortex is actually detecting and picking up electrical information that's sweeping across the brain, leaking into this area. So it's a perceived sound when in fact the auditory cortex ought not to be listening to that rubbish that's going on.
Right.
All the time. Yes. So it's perceived as a real sound when in fact it's not.
How common is tinnitus?
10% of the population actually suffer from tinnitus, and 1% of those have tinnitus that so severely affects them that it disrupts their social life, their work life, their sleep patterns, and it can have a very, very detrimental effect on their well-being.
Well, the way I would describe it, I've had mild tinnitus, but I have a couple of friends who have serious tinnitus, and it has quite literally driven them mad.
It's a term that patients often use, but they do need to get help. It's very debilitating. I mean, you can imagine some patients have a slight ringing in their ears. I've had some patients who have a jet engine noise in their ears 24 hours a day. So there are extremes, and it affects patients very differently. So I can have two tinnitus patients with the same level of tinnitus, same type of noise. One is hardly affected by it, lives with it, has no problem, yet the other, their response to the tinnitus itself is so great that they are completely driven to distraction by it and they can't think and focus.
Is part of the problem a sensitisation problem? By that I mean, sometimes when I hear a whistling in my ear, it was there, and then suddenly I've become aware of it. And then once I'm aware of it, I can't become unaware of it. It's there. I can't get it out of my head, to quote Kylie Minogue. Is that what happens?
Yes, it can be. And if you do notice there's something that's right, saying to somebody, don't think of pink elephants. Well, if you try not to think of pink elephants, that's all you can think about.
Hold on a minute, Fiona. I've got pink elephants in my head now. I should have done
that. Yes. So, when you've got something there that's causing a bit of an issue, trying to get away from it, trying to escape from it, trying not to think about it is very difficult, which is why an awful lot of distraction therapies, desensitisation mechanisms can help enormously with tinnitus recovery. And
also, now this is going to be really clumsy to ask, so bear with me, but in reverse, often we hear things without realising we're hearing them, and those sounds are distracting. I'll give you the example where you're sitting at home and then a sound stops, and it's a sound that's been on for the previous 40 minutes. It could be the Hoover, it could Hoover 40 minutes, you're unlucky, but it could be the washing machine. And then when it turns off, at that moment that it turns off, you become hyper aware of it, and you think, I've just heard that turn off.
Yeah, that's a very clever mechanism actually that occurs in the auditory cortex. Well, all your listeners, I'm sure, have been into air conditioning environments, or they've had their PCs on, and at the end of the day they're turning them off, and it's only when they turn them off they realise actually how loud they were.
That's the point. Yeah.
Exactly, because what happens is this boring, continuous, repetitive noise, the auditory cortex becomes desensitised to it, so it doesn't focus on it, it ignores it, pushes it into the background. And this is a very good tool that we then use with treating tinnitus patients. We allow the auditory cortex to try and do that with the tinnitus. So that's exactly the mechanism that we use.
So my analogy wasn't so clumsy.
No, not at all, Nick. You were spot on.
I could yet be a budding clinical audiologist.
In training.
In training, yes, with a special badge. So there are ways of desensitising your brain and your ears from tinnitus.
Absolutely.
What I'm just still struggling with is how much of this is in the brain and how much of this is in the ear canal. How much of this is a physical remedy and how much of it is a wiring remedy?
Right. Well, they are two very, very closely linked elements that are going on with this. Essentially, we need to desensitise the auditory cortex, but we also, more importantly, need to desensitise the patient to the tinnitus itself. Your autonomic nervous system takes over when tinnitus becomes a problem, your tension, your stress mechanism within the body. So what we need to do is try and calm that. Just sometimes with patients it's an explanation of what's going on, so demystifying the issue, but using all sorts of ways to calm patients down, explanations, understanding of patients, giving them tools and equipment to use that they can desensitise the auditory mechanism, the hearing mechanism, along with recommendations that they strictly come off caffeine, that they do more exercise, basically to try and de-stress themselves. We could all do with a bit more stress release, but definitely tinnitus patients do suffer with high stress levels.
You've done it again. That was my next question. How much of our environment impacts on tinnitus? And I can only speak for myself and say that I think it's when I am tired in particular that I become more acutely aware.
Yep.
You're suggesting from what you were saying a few moments ago that actually by improving our environment, improving our fitness, improving our anxiety levels and improving the way we eat, we can actually improve the impact of tinnitus.
Yes, absolutely. So what happens is when you have tinnitus and it becomes a problem, you get very tense. Unfortunately, that will wind up the tinnitus, making it louder, more intrusive, so making you more tense. So, by the end of the day, tinnitus patients are really on the ceiling sometimes, because they're tired, they've had long days, they've had stressful moments throughout the day, as all of us do, but unfortunately they will compound to increase the tinnitus. So at the very moment when they actually want to go to bed and try and relax, the tinnitus is very loud. So it's important that we give them tools and ways to manage that, and deep relaxation at the end of the evening, yoga, all sorts of things will benefit them.
Do you find from what you're saying that when someone comes and sees you at the hearing practice or at one of your hospitals, that the mere fact you're saying to them, this tinnitus thing, I understand it, and there are ways of not only managing it but abating it and in some cases removing it. Do you find that the sheer simple fact of saying that can have a significant difference and a significant impact on someone's experience of tinnitus?
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately some patients do go to their GPs and are told, well, I'm sorry, there's nothing that can be done, which, as you can imagine, if you have this very debilitating condition and you're told there's nothing can be done, can actually make it 100 times worse.
And then some.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's important that that you do actually seek help, and if someone says to you, well, nothing can be done, then ask to be referred to an ENT consultant or to myself, and then we'll put you straight. and put you in the right direction.
It's so important, isn't it? Just having that glimmer of hope that, albeit whatever your condition is, there is a way forward. And as you've said, via lifestyle and via desensitisation.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's so important to get help. There's no point in suffering with the noise. You just need to go off and get some help.
You nearly said suffering in silence,
but
of course that wouldn't quite work.
Good analogy, really.
You're holding an open evening for tinnitus awareness. That's Thursday the 6th, isn't it? So next Thursday at 6:30.
Next Thursday at Pine Hill Hospital in Hitchin. And if any of your listeners would like to attend or have relatives that would like to go, please ring Pine Hill, the marketing department, and they'll book you in for the evening. So it's a talk on tinnitus and then lots of question and answer sessions afterwards.
I know that lots of my listeners will be interested in that because lots of them suffer from tinnitus. If you've got any questions about your own hearing, 08459 455 555 is the number. Fiona will be very happy to answer any questions you've got about the quality of your hearing, what you hear, whether you suffer from tinnitus as well. 08459 455 555. You can also text your question to 81333. Start your text with 3CR, leave a gap, and then write your all-important message. I'll have some travel for you after Sandy Shaw, Girl Don't Come.
You have a date for Happy's Day tonight. Some distant bell starts chiming now. You want to see her.
Never tear us apart. It's BBC Three Counties Radio. Fiona Bateson, clinical audiologist in the studio, talking about your ears and your hearing and about sardines.
Yes.
I was just reminiscing slightly about my my little trip to the Algarve over Christmas, and I've discovered that Fiona has the same love of grilled sardines. Do you know sardines are one of the cheapest fast food snacks? Full stop. If you go to the Algarve and you get like 6 sardines for €4 and some sourdough bread, just grilled, they jump out of the sea.
Straight onto your plate.
Straight onto the grill. A little bit of salt. I don't think it gets much. And the freshly grilled sardines, nothing like those ones you get in tins.
No, not quite the same.
Now you're making me hungry, and I haven't eaten my banana yet. If you've got any questions for Fiona about your hearing and anything to do with your ears, basically, 08459 455 555 is the number. You can also text a question to 81333, starting your text with 3CR. Brian is in High Wycombe. Hello, Brian.
Oh, hello.
Hello, Brian.
How can Fiona help you?
Well, my problem is trivial compared to tinnitus, which my daughter suffers from. She's head of a school in Tring, lives at Aylesbury, and not too far from Hitchin.
No.
So she would probably be interested in that date that you've got her meeting.
How does her tinnitus affect her, Brian?
Well, she doesn't complain much, but I know it well. She has had it for a long time. I think she's learning to live with it, but I was certainly listening to what you were saying, and that's...
yeah, well, there's an awful lot can be done, and so it is important that she gets help.
Yeah.
You don't think that people should just live with it, do you, Fiona?
No, certainly not when you don't have to. There's no reason you have to at all.
No, but it gets her from time to time, but not... I don't think it's all the time, but... my problem is not like that. It's just waxing of the ear, and I went to a doctor, and for the first time, because I had it syringed, which I know there are varying views on syringing. I've tried not to have it too often.
Right.
But that certainly helped for the time being, and my right ear just blocks up with wax again, and I'm sure it's a problem that a lot of people have, because doctors and other people say don't put anything in your ear any smaller than your elbow.
That's what Fiona says, yeah.
And my doctor, whatever doctor I see, they always say, well, olive oil is just as good as Otex and these other things. Now,
Fiona, what is earwax?
Earwax is, if you think about the eye releases teardrops into the eye to keep it nice and moist and to keep it clean. So it's to make sure that no microbes and dust can sit on the eye and build up. So in the ear, wax is produced by near the drum itself, the lining of the ear, and it picks up all the little microbes and dust and then makes its way out of the ear. Now, so there are 2 processes going on. There's the wax production at the near the eardrum itself, and then there's the migratory process of the tissue lining the canal of the ear, which pushes the wax out unfortunately, as we get older, the wax production rate continues at the same rate, so that continues to build up. But unfortunately, the migration rate at which it's pushed out of the ear slows down. So what you do find, actually, is that as you get older, the ear wax does start to build up, and it does need cleaning out. And the most important thing is to actually keep it soft. So one of your GP's recommendation to use olive oil is very good because it keeps it nice and moist.
With the bottle
No, not the bottle, no. Half a teaspoon every night in one ear with a bit of lump of cotton wool that's soaked in Vaseline on top of that, because you don't want it coming out all over the pillow. So you have that for about 3, maybe 4 nights, just to keep it moist, and it gives it a better opportunity then really for it to come out.
I'm torn as to whether wax is a clever thing or a pain, because from what you're saying, we kind of need it.
We do, absolutely, yeah, we can't do without it. Otherwise, what would happen is that our ears would be completely full of dust, and there'd be no way of getting rid of it at all.
That wouldn't be good to have an ear clogged of dust.
No.
Why should we not put anything in our ear that is smaller than an elbow? Because let's face it, no elbow's going to get in your ear.
No, because you could do lots and lots of damage. So, yes, lots of people have been coming through casualty.
Brian, are you ever tempted to give your ears a good clean? Sorry for lunchtime.
I used to be, but I do resist it now, and any irritation, I just keep away from it. But
yes.
I've been doing this more than 4 days, this oil, because it just doesn't fit. I know the wax is there, and but it just doesn't. This migration, how does it come out?
Well, yes. Well, as you know, Brian, on your skin, the skin cells are replaced underneath what you can see of your skin all the time, and the top ones are rubbed off. All the top layers of skin are rubbed off just against clothes, in bed covers, that sort of thing. And the migratory process in the ear, basically, is a similar sort of idea, similar action, but it's actually pushing the wax out. So it's very, very slow. But unfortunately, as I say, it does slow down as you get older. If your GP has actually seen wax in there, and they've recommended that you use olive oil, have they asked you then to go back to have it cleaned out or not?
Well, I did have it syringed, and in one ear that was fine as far as the left ear is concerned, but the right ear it blocked up, and she said had a look in there again, but no, she didn't suggest I had it syringed again.
Right, well, you might just have a little bit in there that obviously will build up again, and unfortunately you might just produce earwax at a greater rate than the next person. Everyone unfortunately produces at a different rate, and some are more unlucky than others at how fast it's produced.
Do you have people come to you saying they can't hear a thing? You take one look and basically they're just very bunged up.
Yep,
completely. Can it be that simple?
Chock-a-block.
Really?
Absolutely. Some of them completely solid. Yep. So,
and therefore you have to break it up, soften it up.
Yep, soften it up and then clear it out.
A little follow-on question as well about that ear canal. Mm-hmm. Am I right in saying that the skin in the ear canal is either A, particularly sensitive, or B, particularly thin? Because when you do have a little scratch in there, it seems to me it can get infected very, very quickly. Is the skin particularly fragile?
It's not terribly fragile, but if you do stick anything in your ears, the sensation of doing that actually makes your ear produce more wax, because it's trying to push everything out again.
Right.
Yep. So
and hence it gets more infected.
With it, yes.
Brian, it sounds like you're very well behaved with your earwax.
Yes.
Well, yeah, but you did say there, clear it out. I can't hear. If I put the phone to my right ear, I wouldn't hear much of what you were saying, and just said, "I'll put some oil in there for 4 days and it'll clear it out."
The earwax won't be cleared out by the olive oil, but it will keep it moist, so it gives your ear the best opportunity to actually try and push it out itself. It might be worth you going back to your GP, Brian, and saying, is my ear blocked? I can't hear terribly well. If it's not blocked and you've got a little bit of wax in there, they might ask you to pop on and see someone like myself for a hearing assessment. It might not be wax that's causing the hearing problem that you've got on that side, so it's certainly worth having it checked out.
Process of elimination. Start with the wax and then possibly have a hearing test. Bridie sent a text as well along a similar line saying that she keeps getting earache and wax in both ears. The only thing is she usually faints when she has the wax cleared out, so she hates having it done.
Oh, right. Oh, that is difficult actually. I'm not sure if she's suggested that she's had it suction cleared. Microsuction's often an easy way to have it done rather than having the ear flooded with water, the usual sort of irrigation system. So possibly get a referral to an ENT consultant and have it sucked out.
The fainting is, of course, the ear is all about your balance, isn't it? So
yeah, it can be, or she might just not like having it done.
No. And there was I thinking it was pleasurable to have your ears syringed.
Not always.
08459 455 555 is the number if you've got a question for clinical audiologist Fiona Bateson about your own hearing and about your own ears. You can also text your question to 81333, starting your text with 3CR. As you've heard from Fiona, even when you think that there's a serious problem, often there's a simple explanation and there are ways forward. Even as Fiona alluded to a couple of minutes ago, if you really can't hear anything. 08459 455 555. And we're going to be talking about what you can do to make sure that your ears stay healthy. What can we do as we're in our 30s, 40s? Our hearing diminishes as we grow older, but what can we do to ensure good ear health? All that coming up after Peter Sarstedt. Where do you go to, my lovely?
You talk like Marlena Dietrich.
Counties Radio.
Very nearly 10 to 2. Fiona's going to run through her tips on how we should look after our hearing as we all grow a little bit older, because our hearing does degenerate as we grow older. Fiona Bateson, clinical audiologist. First, quick question from Terry. Are in-the-ear aids better than behind-the-ear aids? I didn't know that there was a difference between the two,
Yes,
Fiona.
absolutely, yeah. There's several types of different hearing aids, actually. Hearing aids you can wear inside the ear, so a little piece that goes inside the ear, or you can have an attachment that goes behind the ear as well. The processing that's actually inside the hearing aids should be exactly the same. So if Tim, was it?
Terry.
Sorry, Terry. So if Terry is thinking of having a hearing aid, whatever he has, the processing and the programming of the hearing aid should be exactly the same. So the quality of the sound that he gets should be the same, whether it's an in-the-ear hearing aid or a behind-the-ear hearing aid. There are benefits to both. More often than not, most of my patients prefer to have something in the ear for cosmetic reasons, really. So it feels more comfortable. They don't have any bulk on top of their ears. And also they wear glasses. Every time you put glasses on and take them off, if you wear a behind-the-ear hearing aid, it can be a bit problematic. And patients say, my hearing aid falls off every time I take my glasses off, it knocks it. So patients often go for something in the ear. But the processing, whoever you're seeing for that, Terry, should make sure that the programming information for the hearing aid is exactly the same, whether it's in or behind the ear.
Do you find you still have to fight the stigma with your patients when you say you need a hearing aid?
Always, unfortunately, yeah. And it's such a problem. Patients often associate wearing hearing aids with being older, yet a lot of my patients can be children. I've seen little babies, so they do vary in age, but the stigma attached to wearing hearing aids, unfortunately, is still very strong. But we're doing what we can to battle that.
I just turned my headphones down as you're talking, quite clearly, subliminally. The message is getting there, not least the message you're now going to give us, which is the other thing we wanted to talk about today, how to protect your hearing as we grow old and grow older. I know that you've said before that your hearing naturally degenerates over the years. What do we need to be doing now to make sure that we never have to come and see you, pleasurable as that would be, because you're charming and nice?
Well, basically, you need to be sure that even when you're younger, and it doesn't matter how young you are, you just need to be very sensible about your exposure to loud noise. So ensuring that when you go to rock concerts and parties, that you're not standing near the speaker, that you can't hear the bass so deeply in your chest that you can feel your chest rebounding. That's definitely too loud for you to be around. Making sure that if you shoot or ride motorbikes, that you're wearing the correct hearing protection. Never assume that the little plugs and little bits of cotton wool rolled up stuffed in your ears is going to be enough. So it's going to be properly programmable, made to measure protection for your ears. So it's basically making sure that you're wearing the right protection, making sure also that when you go swimming, people often forget this, when you go swimming you're actually jumping into a pool of water that is essentially quite dirty, regardless of how much chlorine is in it, and always make sure that if there's any risk, if there's any sign of an ear infection or a cold, that actually you're just a bit more sensible about it. There are lots of plugs that you can buy to swim with. If you have perforations in your ears, always make sure that you're wearing, again, completely watertight swimming protection for that. And also, when you're flying, people jump on a plane quite readily these days. Whether for business or for holidays, make sure that when you have a flight to get on, that you're trying to be sure that your nasal passages are as clear as possible. Unfortunately, people jump on planes with nasty colds, all sorts of nasty viruses, especially this time of year. Excuse me. The fact fact that everything's all bunged up can cause huge pressure problems with your ears, particularly
long-term problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Ruptured eardrums, horrendous hearing problems and infections later.
Do we have any buffer zone? For example, if we are going to one big rock gig this year, or if we are going to one big party?
Yeah, no.
Can we? Okay, yeah.
No, absolutely no. You won't get away with it, I'm afraid. 5 minutes exposure to anything above 84 dB, and what you will find is that it won't materialise now, but maybe in 10, 15 years' time.
Really, just for that? Wow.
Yep, absolutely. So you've got to be so careful. Sometimes the exposure is so bad that you end up with ringing, as in tinnitus, excuse me. But what you will find is that it doesn't normally declare itself until a few years later, and if you continually then expose yourself thinking, oh, I got away with that one, I'll go to the next rock concert next month, it won't be so bad, but it all will start to accumulate, and then you'll end up with a hearing loss which unfortunately is non-recoverable.
Wow.
Yep, so you need to be really careful.
There's no playing games with that?
No, that's it. Once it's gone, it's gone.
Okay, and with your children and grandchildren, if you're taking them to places where there's loud noises, use those
really careful.
Use those big ear muff protectors.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's only really if you're going shooting or anything like that. You'd need to be very sensible, with children, because you wouldn't really take them anywhere. It was that loud that it would be a problem.
Fiona, I feel quite told off.
Oh, do you?
in the best possible way. I was kind of expecting you to say no. Well, a little bit isn't. But no, Fiona Bateson, absolutely categorical. Do not eat.
No point messing with it.
Yes, don't mess with it, because once it's gone, it can be gone. Fascinating stuff as always, Fiona. We've done tinnitus at length, which is in relation to your tinnitus awareness evening. Now I've got to change the date. It's not Thursday the 6th of February. It's Thursday the 5th of February. That's at 6:30. Pioneer Hospital in Hitchin. If you want to go along for a free awareness lecture that Fiona's going to be giving. And also, we've learnt how to look after our ears. Oh, and not to stick things in our ears that are any smaller than your elbow. Fiona, where can my listeners find your practice?
Well, we're at Pine Hill Hospital in Hitchin, we're at Spire Hospital in Harpenden, and the Rivers Hospital in Sawbridgeworth.
And your website, which you always forget to give, is www.thehearingpractice.co.uk if you want to find Fiona online. And the contact number there is 07748 417 608. I'm going to... sorry, Fiona. Oh, yes, of course. I nearly forgot. Now, you're... Remind me who this is. This is your 85-year-old...
It's actually my aunt and uncle, Auntie Mo and Uncle Dave. Nick has said that he'd play something very special for you because it's your 60th wedding anniversary last December.
Exactly. And this is why I've chosen Sonny and Cher, I Got You, Babe, which I thought would be very, very appropriate. Happy 60th wedding anniversary to them. Maybe I'll get them in and they can tell me the secret as to how to remain married for 60 years.
60 years.
Just say yes, dear, a lot. Fiona, we'll see you back here very soon.
They say